Hello and welcome back to the Nasty Metal, a production channel, great YouTube, and welcome to another Friday review. And today as you can tell, I'm getting around to reviewing Carpe Diem, Saxon's 24th studio album, which was released through Silver Lining Music on February 4th. So without further ado, let me get into my thoughts on Carpe Diem by Saxon. Okay, so before I really get into any of my overall thoughts on Carpe Diem, let me, of course, like I usually do, tell you what are the songs on this album, how many songs are on this album, and what's the time length for this album. And since we have at least about 10 songs here, it all clocks in at the length of 44 minutes and 19 seconds. So, these 10 songs are beginning with Carpe Diem, I guess parentheses, Seize the Day. Then in 2, Age of Steam, The Pilgrimage, Dam Busters, Remember the Fallen, Supernova, Lady in Grey, All for One, Black is the Night, and then finally ending with Living on the Limit. So there's your 10 songs. Now, like I've stated, this is their 24th studio album. However, this is technically their 22nd studio album worth of original material. Again, they've released 2 studio albums that are not full of original songs. The first one was 2002's Heavy Metal Thunder, which was mostly re-recorded material. And then, of course, the second one was, well, Inspirations from last year, which was their very first covers album. So, there you go. And also, Andy Sneap is still the producer for this album. He has been producing them for at least close to 9 years. Ever since 2013's Sacrifice. So he's been, of course, he didn't produce Inspirations. That was all self-produced by the band themselves. Because again, I think at that time period in 2020, he was mostly focused on maybe working out post-production work, you know, with Accept, and of course then focusing on stuff for Judas Priest. So there you go. Now, as far as Carpe Diem is concerned here, I'm going to be really honest with you. I have at least enjoyed everything that I've heard from Saxon. Again, all the previous ones, except for, of course, Call to Arms and Sacrifice. Those are the only 2 Saxon albums that I don't have in my collection. I've got most of every one of them. Again, I got into Saxon in December of 2008 when I started listening to songs off of Wheels of Steel on YouTube, which eventually Wheels of Steel became one of the very first Saxon albums that I ever bought. With, of course, my cousin Sean burning me a copy of Unleash the Beast in 2009. Again, that same very year. Then, of course, that same very year, I ended up, of course, obtaining, Strong Arm of the Law. Then I started listening to stuff of, of the, like, Power on the Glory and Denim and Leather. And then finally in 2014, I ended up obtaining the complete albums box set, which pretty much focused on everything from this 1979 self-titled debut up to about 1988's Destiny. Then, of course, in 2015, I ended up catching Saxon on one of their Warriors of the Road tour in August of 2015, and that's of course how I got the t-shirt that you see wearing in the video, was from that very same show, and it was at the Knitting Factory in Reno, Nevada, which is now defunct, sadly. Maybe Nightwish is to blame. More further on that and some other time. I might have mentioned that a few more. Who knows? Either way, that same very year in 2015, I then, of course, ended up getting Battering Ram as a brand new release. Then, of course, in 2018, I ended up getting Thunderbolt as a brand new release. Then, of course, that same very year of 2018, I ended up getting a copy of Solid Book of Rock for my birthday. Which, of course, focuses on everything from Solid Ball of Rock up to about 2009's Into the Labyrinth. So that's pretty much all of the stuff that I got from Saxon, and of course including last year's Inspirations. So, since I've went through all of that, I've told you all of that, Carpe Diem, I gotta say, this might be, I think, better than maybe some of the previous couple of albums. I mean, I love Battering Ram, and I kind of do like Thunderbolt, but I gotta be honest with you, I think I like Carpe Diem more than Thunderbolt here, because of at least of the original material. I mean, Saxon or Saxon, At this point, they're kind of in the same sort of vicinity as like a Motorhead or, of course, say AC/DC, where it's like you kind of know they've got a formula, but it's a formula that works for them. You know, it's come to be expected. It's Saxon, and they're never going to change that. They're not here to really, you know, reinvent the wheel, but they're just going to be who they are. But the thing is that is it going to be Saxon who are going to be in tip-top shape and sound like, you know, a really reinvigorated band that's got fire to them, it's got some oomph behind them, or is it going to be Saxon and Autopilot? Which in some ways I kind of felt was kind of like on Thunderbolt. Even if I enjoyed Thunderbolt, at times I gotta really be honest with you, over time it really hasn't become one of my all-time favorite Saxon albums, to where I almost felt like it might be up there as one of my more least favorite of the more modern releases from Saxon. Again, I've always somehow felt I have more resonance towards, let's say, Battering Ram instead. But Carpe Diem, this right here is Saxon on fire. They've got some oomph behind them. There's some huevos behind them. You know, they actually sound like a band that is actually able to conquer anything, even if it's Saxon and it sounds like Saxon, but they just sound like a band that really is in tip-top shape. There's some great fucking songs on here. I mean, just the opener of Carpe Diem sees the day, to, of course, like songs like Age of Steam, The Pilgrimage, Dam Busters, Remember the Fallen, Supernova, Lady in Grey, All for One, Black as the Night, and Living on the Limit. Every one of these 10 songs, and of course, this is kind of a shorter album compared to the previous 2 full-length albums, at least of studio original material. Because again, Battering Ram and Thunderbolt really kind of went into more 50 minutes or 47 minutes. You know, they kind of pushed there. This one's at least 44 minutes. So it's a little bit shorter. But this right here, it flows by so quickly to where it makes me want to listen to it more and more. Again, we get plenty of classic Saxon-style rockers, like with, of course, Carpe Diem Sees the Day, to, of course, Dam Busters, Remember the Fallen, All for One. These are really some of the more straightforward Saxon rockers on the album. Dam Busters almost has kind of a galloping sort of beat to it. And pacing, it's really cool. But, again, songs that are like, again, Remember the Fallen and All for One are like typical Saxon rockers. And it's what you've come to expect, but there's some oomph behind them. They got some fire going, and you tell the electricity is flowing through every one of these guys', you know, every one of the members' veins and their fingers and everything. Like, they sound like a band that is just, you know, inspired in a way. You know, it sounds great. But of course, Remember the Fallen is actually kind of take a little bit away, just to kind of focus on some of the lyrical content a bit here. Seems to be seems to really be one of those songs that really seems to be inspired by more recent events, because it's still very current, the themes for, of course, for the song Remember the Fallen, which is all surrounded by, of course, who we've lost during this COVID-19 era. So it's kind of one of those, it's a song about COVID-19 and those who we've lost. So it's kind of still a very current subject, but they somehow made it work. And the thing is, it might be weird that they chose these kind of lyrical themes for such a straightforward rocker like Remember the Fallen, but at the same time, it's got a great message, but it's also a pretty good song behind it. So kudos to them. So there's all playing. Again, most of these songs remind me of something that could have either been on like Power and the Glory or something, you know, like that, you know, or even like Lionheart. But still, when you got other songs like, for example, let's say like Age of Steam or Supernova, and then, of course, Living on the Limit. These are some fast, heavy songs on this one. I would say Age of Steam and Supernova are some of the more heavier songs off the album. They're like almost bordering on speed metal, and at times even thrash. They're really, really aggressive songs at times, especially Supernova. But goddamn, they are very so energetic, but they are so effective and just great stuff. As far as more slower songs, we got like The Pilgrimage and Lady in Grey, which these 2 songs here they're slow, but they don't sound similar to each other. The Pilgrimage, on the other hand, sounds like something that could have easily been off of like Crusader. I get a lot of Crusader vibes with this song, especially the title track, off of Crusader. It sounds a lot like it at times. And again, even the intro at times is not something, though, that at times sounds like something off of Crusader, but instead I get more vibes of a, like, Innocent Is No Excuse. Mostly, again, the song Rockin' Again. Just those beginning clean intro is more kind of that vibe, but for the most part, it sounds like something off of Crusader. Real nice vibe to it. It real fits along with the album, especially the cover and everything, which of course has that Crusader vibe going on for it in a way. So it's kind of one of those that really harkens back to the old sort of 80s period of Saxon, that classic period of them. So, and it's a great put together song. I really enjoy it. It's actually one of my absolute favorite songs off the entire album. So there we go. But Lady in Grey at times, though, reminds me a little bit of, like, Queen of Hearts off of Battering Ram. But I think it's actually at times maybe slightly better than Queen of Hearts. So it's really got a real cool vibe to it. Also, got to give it that NastyMetalProduction on the album here is probably the warmest I think he has ever produced an album, or anything he's ever produced. It's got a very warm to at least the sound of the album and the overall atmosphere. So everything has almost a very studio, almost in-room feel compared to, let's say, something like Queen of Hearts off of Battering Ram, which was so digital sounding. But this one just has a very roomy feel, which I think adds to the overall feel of Lady in Grey, and it's really cool. I dig it. Other songs, again, for example, like Black as the Night is another kind of slightly more so kind of galloping mid-pace. It's a little slower galloping, but it still has a very heavy backbone to it, and that's really cool. It's great. And of course, Living on the Limit, which is more so in the, I guess, paying homage musically and style-wise to, of course, Motorhead. Because it's got a very Motorhead feel with this song here. That's why I kind of lump it in with songs like Age of Steam and Supernova. But the thing is, this is kind of a Motorhead style, new wave or British heavy metal, speed metal kind of track. Which, again, very much at times similar to, of course, And They Played Rock and Roll, which was Saxon's homage to, of course, to the legends like Motorhead, which they once opened for in either 1979 and 1980 and so on. You know, they got the tour, like the Bomber Tour and everything. But Living on the Limit just kind of has that same, where they somehow continue more of that kind of style. So it's still great. Either way, every one of these 10 songs sound like a band that at least is inspired, and it's all great. Every one of them. And Carpe Diem is a great fucking opener. There's just nothing bad on here. I enjoy almost everything. As far as songs I really dig, I'll be honest, I mean, I love The Pilgrimage, I love Age of Steam, I love Remember the Fallen, I love Supernova, All for One. Every one of these songs I dig. But I gotta say, I almost like every one of them. It's really difficult to really pinpoint a really absolute favorite, because I think every one of these songs are solid and very enjoyable, and it's kind of one of those that are a little tough, because I think every one of these songs are really good. So there it is. There is my overall thoughts on Carpe Diem by Saxon. As far as my overall rating, I don't have the paper in my hand, but I know exactly what I'm giving the rating because I memorized it. I'm giving it a straight up 9.98 out of 10. Again, close to being a 10, because this was a really fucking solid album from the beginning. I think it's probably some of the better material I think Saxon has released in at least several years. Maybe even longer. I think it's a really just solid, enjoyable album from them. I think at times it's just a much more stronger album compared to, let's say, for an example, like Thunderbolt and Battering Ram and so forth. I think it's a really good album. That's all I gotta say. So, if you have heard Carpe Diem by Saxon, have you any thoughts, again, whether it be positive or negative, you can leave them in the comment section below. But if you haven't heard Carpe Diem and you're familiar with Saxon and you haven't really kept up much, it's a solid album on its own right. You know, it may not be the greatest thing, but for me being a pure Saxon fan, I think it's one of the strongest albums that they've released in quite a while. So that's all I gotta say. But again, check it out. I think it's definitely worth the listen here. I think it's good. So with that, I hope all of you enjoyed. This is Heavy Thrash saying I'm out, and I'll see you all later. Take care, everyone.